welcome to the Curious Lorenzo podcast, where I, Lorenzo, that's my name, talk about topics that pique my interest, tickle my curiosity. I don't know, things that just sort of bring me down the rabbit hole. I don't know, different ways of saying different things, I guess. But, anyways, I am naturally just sort of a curious person, and if something grabs me, it doesn't let go, and I have to research it a little bit. Disclaimer, I don't know much of anything. I don't know, that's kind of mean to myself, I guess, but I'm not an expert on anything. I just have tools that are available to me. I have the internet. That's about it. My observation, my intuition, and I take it from there. So today, what I wanted to sort of research was drag coefficient. So a little background, I was browsing Reddit a little while back, and somebody posted something online about drag coefficients and got me wondering, hey, I wonder what my car's drag coefficient is, and what does this all mean? Why do we measure drag coefficients? Why do companies care about them? Bunch of questions just started to flow. So I started to research it. And researching topics, researching different things that bring me, make me curious, I guess, has become easier and easier, especially this last year with the popularization and mass, I guess, adoption. I don't know, mass adoption. Different ideas, different thoughts about it, but artificial intelligence, specifically LLMs or large language models. I think that's what LLM stands for. But ChatGPT is the big one. But large language model. That's what it is. ChatGPT is the big one, developed by OpenAI, and they've kind of put a lot of pressure on Google, and Google is now rolling out Bard. And I think Bard is now called something else, or it's going to be called something else this upcoming year. But so those are the ones I know of. Microsoft is, from what I understand, they're a big investor in OpenAI and have access to a lot of the OpenAI technology. So I do use Bing quite a bit because it does use, again, my limited knowledge, my limited understanding. I may be saying something incorrect. I don't know, but I think Bing uses GPT-4 in its LLM, chatbot tool, which is part of Bing. But I use that because, for two reasons. It has GPT-4, which, I don't know, they say it's better than what I'm using in ChatGPT, which is GPT 3.5. That's what it says on the website. And I'm kind of going down another rabbit hole right here with AI, but I'll tie it all together here in a second. Microsoft also, what they'll do is they'll with their chat discussions will also use Bing results. So you can kind of go and check their links, you can check their sources. And it seems to me a more reliable source of chatbot information if I want to discuss something that's current. Like news or politics or whatever's going on right now. And it also, or if it's something that's really important to me that I absolutely want to get the best information, most up-to-date, most current information, because what it'll do is it'll cite sources. And if I feel like I need to go and dig deeper, I can do that. So Microsoft's great. But what I really wanted to talk about, which brought me to understand a bit more about drag coefficients, is OpenAI's new tool, their audio chat tool that they have within their app. I'm not sure if it's an Android and an iOS. I assume so. I have the iOS version, which is iPhone, and it is fantastic. Like, this is the first public release to it. I'm sure they've been working on it for a long time, but you have a choice of a couple different voices, maybe I think 4 or 5 voices. But the voice has the capability of kind of mimicking human discussion. they still have a lot of work to do as far as making it like a natural conversation, but the voice itself, the intonations, it pauses, it says words like and ah as it's talking to you. So it's really good. And it's paired with OpenAI's ChatGPT, which earlier this year, maybe the end of last year, really amazed people at its capability. So it's a great thing. I also wanted to mention it's not the same as like a Google Assistant or Siri, because it can't interact with the device you're talking to it from. Like, on your Android phone, if you wanted to talk to Google Assistant, you can ask it to turn off the Wi-Fi, or you can ask it to send a text message, and the same thing with Siri. This does not interact with your device, but it does kind of give you information. And for me, I learn that way. I learn in sort of a conversation. So this has been great for me to research things. And I've been putting on this podcast for some time, but one day I was driving to work on my commute and decided to put my audiobook to the side for the commute and safely, hands-freely, I should mention, turned on ChatGPT and started to talk to it. And this idea of drag coefficients has been really kind of just bugging me for a long time, and I hadn't had a chance to sit down and really hit the books as it is. So I just started talking to ChatGPT to get some information, and this is kind of a couple of those bits of information that I found. By the way, would recommend downloading the app and checking it out, experiencing it for yourself. It's a pretty cool technology. And if your brain works like mine, I'm sorry, but my brain sort of learns that way. I learn from that conversation, and then as I get information, it kind of allows me to ask more questions, and those more questions lead to other questions. And as I start answering these questions, that's when I start getting an understanding of whatever topic it is. So yeah. So let's, I guess that was a really, really diversion, a long diversion. But drag coefficients. What is it? What is the drag coefficient? Well, the drag coefficient is a mathematical equation, excuse me, that allows us to, well, it's physics. Now I'm trying to like verbalize what I've learned. I've been thinking about this for some time, but the drag coefficient is a measurement that will tell us the aerodynamics of an object. So it tells us how freely, I guess, an object can travel through a medium in the best terms that I can describe it. The drag coefficient is a mathematical equation, and ChatGPT spat out a formula, but as I did some more research on Google, I found that there's other ways to express it. It is algebra after all, so you can kind of move variables around here and there. In some places call the variables different names, but the variables are the same as far as I can understand it. But the most common one that I found online, and I don't know if this is correct or incorrect or whatever, but this is where I saw it most frequently expressed is, and then I'm sorry, also, I'm not a mathematician, so I don't know if I'm saying the terms, the variables incorrect or correct, but this is what I found. Drag coefficient is expressed as C sub D, and the equation, and I'll post this on the website, curiouslorenzo.com, C sub D is equal to D over R A V squared over 2. So I saw it expressed that way. I also saw it expressed C sub D is equal to F sub D over 1/2 P V squared A. That's the one I saw most frequently, so I'll kind of break down what those variables are. F sub D is the drag force, and the drag force is measured in newtons, so like force on the object, so the drag force is F sub d, over 1/2 P, and P, that variable is the density of the fluid, and fluid is meaning going to be the air. So like if we're talking about cars, it's the air. Whatever medium, I guess, that you're going through is that fluid, the density of the fluid. Which got me thinking about something else. Is in space travel, of course, there's no air, there's nothing. That's going to be zero. So this doesn't matter in space, right? I guess that's kind of obvious, but I know it's interesting to me. No, it's not going to matter in space, and it's not going to matter in a vacuum if you can make the vacuum tubes like the Tesla tunnel is talking about. Pretty interesting. All right, so next thing, v squared. V is the flow velocity. So not necessarily the velocity of the object that's traveling through the medium, but the velocity of the flow. So this is like if you're in a car driving down a highway, it's the velocity of the air passing over the object. And this velocity can be, and again, fact check me, but I'm assuming that this velocity can be equal to, I guess, the net. So like if you're traveling 70 miles per hour down the freeway, and you have a tailwind of 20 miles per hour, then the flow velocity would then be 50 miles per hour because you subtract the tailwind. And then the other way is also true if you're going into a headwind of 20 miles per hour, a 20 mile per hour wind heading straight at you, and you're going 70 miles per hour, then your flow velocity would be 90 miles per hour. Yeah, that's the flow velocity. And then A is the frontal area. So it's the cross section of the front of the vehicle, because that is the direction of travel that you're going to be going. And when you're measuring the coefficient drag of a car or a vehicle traveling down the highway, it's that front cross section as you're looking at it like head on. Makes sense, right? Because the car isn't going to be traveling side to side, or it's not going to be traveling in reverse. I mean, you will be traveling in reverse occasionally, but it doesn't really matter what your drag coefficient is going in reverse, because your primary direction of travel is going to be forward in drive, right? So that's the equation, from what I understand, and those are the variables. As I was thinking about the variables, I was thinking about how the drag coefficient of a car can change depending on how those variables change. So the only thing that I could understand that could stay or would stay consistent would be the area of the cross section of the front of the vehicle. Everything else changes, or maybe everything else changes. I might be wrong, but the flow velocity can change, or it will change as you slow down and speed up. The density of the fluid can change. I don't know how much of an impact this is going to have, but the density of the air can change. Like if you're maybe going from the bottom of a mountain to the top of a mountain, the air density will change maybe enough to make a difference, because there's less oxygen up there, and air on Earth is made up of mostly nitrogen, but it has oxygen, carbon dioxide, and some other gases. So the amount of oxygen, that mixture can change, I guess, wherever you are on Earth. If you're in a forest, you might have a lot more oxygen. If you're in a desert, you'll have a lot less. If you're higher in elevation, lower in elevation. I really don't know how much of an impact that's going to have, but I think that the density is going to change of your air, depending on where you're at. The other thing is, and fog. If it's foggy, if it's raining, there's all kinds of different environmental changes that's going to impact your drag coefficient. When they run these tests, that it's a controlled environment. I think they try. The one thing that's going to change is going to be the things that are going to change in the controlled environment when they're running these tests are the density of the fluid, the flow of the flow velocity, And I think that's it, right? Because the other thing that's going to change within that equation is going to be the frontal area. Each car is going to have a different frontal area. Well, frontal area and then the drag force. That's what it is. The drag force. The frontal area and the drag force. Those two things will change as your vehicle changes, but in a testing environment, you want to keep the flow velocity and the density of fluid the same, I imagine. And that's going to include probably keeping the same temperature, keeping the same air mixture, I don't know. I've never run a test. I don't own a air tunnel. Is that what they're called? But if I did own an air tunnel, that's what I would say. Keep those things the same. Yeah. So that's my understanding of the equation. And I think that's all I want to talk about for now, and then I'll move on to the cars, because I was curious about my own car, and I was curious about other types of cars, and I was curious about why we do this, why it's measured. So yeah, I'll take a little break, and then I'll come back and talk about those things. Okay, I'm back. So, drag coefficients. I broke down the formula as best as I could, tried to define each variable, and the next thing, so once I did that, I wanted to sort of get an idea of, where my car is in all of this, and why is this important in car manufacturing and other areas too. Other vehicle manufacturing, planes, rockets, I don't know. What else travels through the air? Baseballs, basketballs, footballs. I can't really think of anything else. I did think about this. Parachutes, right? You want to have a high drag coefficient for parachutes. You don't want to go very fast as you're falling out of a plane, right? You want to be slowed down. So, I thought about that. So I think I will actually look that up here in a second. Like, what is the drag coefficient of a parachute? In fact, I think I'll just do that right now. Drag coefficient. See, the internet is dangerous for me because I get very distracted. And I think, I can look that up right now. And I have to stop myself, especially when I'm watching shows, because I'm watching a show, like right now we're watching the show called Silo on Apple TV. And it's interesting, but then I'll see something like Common wearing his leather jacket and his turtleneck, and when I'm wondering, does he always wear that? So I'll Google it, and then that'll bring me down a rabbit hole, and then I've lost half the show. So that's the internet for me. Drag coefficient, parachute. All right, so another NASA website, Velocity During Recovery is the name of the website. And I don't know what that is, but there's a lot of math here, and I'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll read that later. But there's a Reddit question. What is the drag coefficient of an Estes parachute? I don't know what an Estes parachute is, but let's see here. Somebody answered general rule of thumb for CD or C sub D. I think that's that's drag coefficient is 0.75 for flat sheet parachutes. This will change depending on length of your shroud lines and whether or not you are using a spill hole. And that spill hole, I'm deducing, is the top little hole on the top, on the top of the parachute that allows some air to come through. Somebody here used ChatGPT. For a parachute, the drag coefficient typically ranges from about 0.7 to 1.4, depending on the chute design. Um, I just downvoted somebody on. I'm sorry. This person says ChatGPT should not be trusted for pretty much anything. This was 6 months ago though, and the technology is advancing super fast. The only thing you should use ChatGPT for is to give you more information, then do to then do research on. Okay, I agree with that. I'm gonna undownvote you, sir or ma'am. Never trust it directly. Okay, yeah, I agree. I think it does deserve a bit of trust. No, I mean not complete trust, but it deserves a bit of trust. And I think it's a similar idea to Wikipedia, um, but I think it deserves a bit of trust. But yes, definitely do your research. So yeah, I guess that's the well, here I'll look at one more website. This is the Science SSRN. And it doesn't give me a straight answer. Let's see here. Furthermore, the relationship between parachute area and terminal velocity was explored using linear regression models. Coefficient of determination of terminal velocity of parachute area ranged from, and I guess that's the drag coefficient? I'm not sure. This is like high level science paper kind of thing. But it says 0.91 to 0.98. And that sounds pretty consistent with what the Redditor says. So that's the parachute drag coefficient, and that's the mini rabbit hole I did just on the fly. You're welcome. So yeah, drag coefficients and cars. The car that I drive is an aerodynamic car. It's a fuel efficient car. And that's where I originally saw this drag coefficient measurements for the different generations of the vehicle that I drive. I drive a Toyota Prius, and mine is a third generation Prius. And somebody posted, the figures for the Gen 1, which was, I think, late 90s, early 2000s. Gen 2 was the popular one that kind of exploded the Prius brand. And then I have the generation after that, which is the third generation. And then I think now we are on the fourth generation, which is a pretty sweet design, if you ask me. I'm kind of a car person. I've always just really been interested in cars, but I don't know. If you're a Prius person, are you also a car person? I don't know. I guess so. But yeah, there's the first generation, which is kind of unrecognizable to the Prius brand. And then the second generation, like I said, super recognizable. And the third generation looks a bit different. I just popped up their Wikipedia website. Third generation looks a bit different. And I actually like that design. I think that one looked really nice. I drive a fourth generation, which a lot of people, I think there was mixed emotions. And then now we're on the fifth generation, just came out. This one looks like sporty. It does not look like a Prius. It looks nice. The top of the model, or top of the line model, has a sunroof. It has it's more EV than previous Priuses. EV meaning electric vehicle. You can run directly off of the battery, from what I understand. I watched a MKBHD video on it, and it's a really nice design in my opinion. And I just got a text. Sorry about that ding. But yeah, really nice design. But my vehicle, my fourth generation Prius, is a bit more aerodynamic than this fifth generation, which is pretty cool. So, where was I going with that? Well, there is a list, a table on drag coefficients online. Got this from Wikipedia, so take it how you will. But they listed all of the production vehicles and their drag coefficients. And so I kind of sorted it to fit my needs, and I'll just kind of read off a couple of the ones from the top here. Now, it says that these are production vehicles, but some of these I've never heard of, and I don't know even if they are available to the public or have been. Again, Wikipedia, take it how you will. So the best vehicle as far as aerodynamics, so it has the lowest, so, and that's, again, that's how the coefficient drag works. The lower the number, the better. Higher number, you're going into parachute range, which again was like at about 1, like 0.9 to, that sounds like 1 is a good parachute drag coefficient where you want more drag. Cars, apparently you want less drag. So yeah. The top vehicle here that is production is called the Lightyear Zero, which is a vehicle I've never heard of, but I had to look it up just to kind of look at it. But it's called the Lightyear Zero. This is a 2022 model. It's an electric vehicle, and it is also solar. It says that this is production, but can you get this? I don't know. I have never seen these driving around town. But just a quick scan of the Wikipedia page is it's a all solar electric car. It's from a Dutch manufacturer called Lightyear, and it says production was originally scheduled to start in 2021, and the starting price was €250,000, including VAT. I don't know what VAT is. Value added tax. Okay. The first units were okay, so I guess they have been delivered in December 2022. In January 2023, Lightyear announced that it was halting production of so it stopped. So it's not really production. And so they halted production, and that Atlas Technology, the subsidiary responsible for the manufacture of Lightyear Zero, would be allowed to go bankrupt. So I guess they went bankrupt. That sucks. After a restart and new investments, the manufacturer is now focusing on more affordable model Lightyear 2. So the Lightyear Zero sounds like it was delivered for a brief amount of time, but now they're looking forward to the Lightyear 2. So yeah, it's around. There's a couple of these around, but never seen one. Next one is from 1996. It's the General Motors EV1. I might be wrong, but I think this is what that documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car, is based off of. And this is how I discovered EVs way back in 2003. He used to deliver pizzas, and there was this guy who's like, hey, have you ever seen this movie called Who Killed the Electric Car? Check it out. And I did. And it's pretty interesting, and it makes you wonder about a lot of different things. But yeah, this General Motors EV1, apparently they sold a couple, but was then shut down, some say by the oil companies. Others say the markets weren't ready. I don't know. Either way, 0.19 coefficient drag. Next one, 2013 Volkswagen XL1. After that, Lucid Air. Lucid Air is a very high-end EV, crazy expensive, crazy fast, but that has a 0.197 drag coefficient. Mercedes EQS, 0.208. Tesla Model S, 0.208. And then this one was interesting to me when I was looking this up. The 1935 Tatra T77A. Didn't expect to see a car from the 1930s to be on the top 10 list here, but there it is, the Tatra T77A, 0.212. Next is the Li Auto Mega. It's Li Auto Mega. It's a Chinese manufacturer, and this is a minivan. I looked this up a little earlier. 0.212. And then the next one is the BMW 5 Series, Mercedes-Benz CLA 180 Blue Efficiency. I'm just kind of going to read down the list. Porsche Taycan Turbo, Audi, BMW, Neo EC7, Tesla Model 3, 0.23. I'm not sure how to say this. It's XPENG, P7, BMW i4, Hyundai Ioniq, Kia Optima, and then Mercedes, Tesla. So yeah, lots of different manufacturers here. Most of these seem to be either Chinese or German, with the Dutch vehicle being at the top. The American vehicles are the Teslas. And then the first Japanese vehicle that I can tell. Oh yeah, and then Korean, of course, Hyundai and the Kia. But the first Japanese vehicle I can tell is my Japanese vehicle, my Toyota Prius. My Gen 4 Toyota Prius has a drag coefficient of 0.24. And then after that, you have BMW iX, Honda Insight, and then Lexus LS430. And then the list goes down. Lots and lots of German vehicles. And then a few Japanese. The first non-Tesla American vehicle, from what I can tell, I'm just going to kind of go down. Here's a Jaguar, Infiniti, Japanese and British, I think, right? Jaguars are British. Here it is, Ford Focus MK4 hatchback from 2018, 0.273. That's the first on this list that I can tell non-Tesla American vehicle. And then after that, Ford Fusion, and then the list goes down. So yeah, one of my favorite vehicles of all time, the Lexus IS, especially the 2000. Well, this is 2006 to present. I liked the generation before that. One of my favorite vehicles of all time is going to be like a 2001 or 2002 IS 300 with the 5-speed. It's a different vehicle in Japan. I think it's called the Alteza. But I really like that vehicle. I love the styling of that car, and one of these days, I don't know, maybe I'll get one. Maybe. They're hard to find. There's a lot of people like me who like them. But yeah, that's the list. The first truck that I can tell, of course, trucks are not designed to be aerodynamic. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe it's like a thought, especially if you're hauling a load across the country. You might want to consider how aerodynamic your vehicle is so that you can save on fuel. I don't know. Seems more so on like semi trucks than it would be for like a pickup truck. What kind of pickup truck would take a load a long way? Probably like an F-350, a Ram 3500. Those dualies. They're going to be taking loads across the country or long distances. But your F-150s, your Silverado 1500s. You might be taking a load for a long distance, but those are also people's daily drivers. And there's also other purposes. You use those for, off-roading. You have a ranch, you have a whatever, right? So, but the first truck that I can find on here was the Dodge Durango, which no longer is in production. The Dodge Durango was Dodge's mid-size vehicle that they produced for a long time. Had that iconic Dodge hood design where it had like the high kind of top in the middle, and then it kind of curved down on the headlights. I remember when Dodge came out with that with their Ram pickups, and now of course Dodge. They're not called Dodge anymore. They're just called Ram. But yeah, the Dodge Durango 0.33 has the same drag coefficient as the Dodge Charger, 0.33. And then I'll go down a little bit further. And I'm curious to find that a lot of these drag coefficients in the 0.3, 0.4 are, some of them are fuel efficient vehicles, like the Honda Civic from 2001 to 2005 has a 0.36. But some of these are like high performance vehicles. The one that surprised me, and I guess it shouldn't have, but on this list, and I don't know why it shows this because these aren't production vehicles, but it shows like your typical Formula One car has a drag coefficient of 0.7. Is that correct? I don't know, but it does make sense because when you're driving a vehicle like that's a performance vehicle, you have so much power and you don't have a whole lot of weight, but you need some drag in order to keep the vehicle like stuck to the ground. Otherwise, you're going so incredibly fast, you're going to go airborne. My guess. But the other one too that kind of surprised me was the 1996 Dodge Viper RT10. I remember when this vehicle came out, and I was like, I loved cars back then. I loved looking at the cars, studying their specs. But this car had a V10 engine, and it looked very slick. It looked like it would glide through the air, but apparently not. It's a drag coefficient of 0.45. A Toyota truck has a better drag coefficient. The Lamborghini Countach, 0.42, also a high drag coefficient. And I think maybe these have high drag coefficients for the same purpose that the Formula One car, right? Maybe they can go high speeds and you want some drag to keep it stuck to the ground. I don't know. Might be wrong. But the worst drag coefficient on this list is the 1957 to 1972 Lotus 7.75 is the drag coefficient. And then the Land Rover Defender 0.59. And then, of course, right above that at 0.57 is the Hummer H2. And then the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Awful drag coefficients. But those, you're not going to be taking those fast distances, and it's all about design, and so is what it is. All right, well, that's it. That is my my brief curiosity explored on drag coefficients. Hope you enjoyed it, and either that or if you use this podcast to fall asleep, I hope you are slumbering and dreaming of good dreams of air tunnels and so on. I don't know what else I'm going to say, but that's it. Talk to you soon.